Ahead of the November presidential election in the United States, Democratic candidate and Vice President Kamala Harris has addressed a variety of topics, including immigration and security, among others. Harris addressed concerns about the Biden administration's handling of illegal immigration at the southern border, attributing the challenges to Republicans' refusal to pass a border reform bill. While Trump doubled down on his controversial comments about the enemy from within made over the weekend. Meanwhile, before an all-female audience in Cumming, Georgia, Trump also mocked Kamala Harris, her allies, as dangerous and a threat to democracy.
Other countries laugh at us. I had a good interview today with Bloomberg. Did anybody see that? That was a great interview. He was a Trump hater. And brilliantly, my staff didn't tell me that. I said, who is this guy? Sir, he hates you very much. He's been after you. So they got me all started before I went up, but it was a great interview. And I think it really showed the plan that we have, because he was unable to dispute it. We're going to bring so many companies back into our country, and a lot of them are going to be based right here, right in the great state of Georgia. But starting on day one, I will quickly defeat inflation, and we're going to bring down the energy prices fast, liquid gold. And we will make America affordable again. Prices are still going up. You know, they're going up again. And they surged again very viciously last month. And here we go again. And Kamala Harris has no idea what's happening. They say, what do you think of inflation? What? What do you think of inflation? She didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is
Well, pretty conversations. They're interesting conversations. Well, let's bring in global affairs analyst Boye Akini-Oku, who joins us from Texas to discuss as we count down to the elections. Good to have you join us on the World Now.
Good afternoon, Lagos, and thank you for having me.
Well, very interesting build-up to the elections. In a matter of days, Americans will be electing its 47th president. Will it be a second-time runner, that's Donald Trump, or Vice President Kamala Harris? We'll know, of course, in a couple of days. But let's take a look at the interview, which is a topic of discourse, right? Although Kamala Harris didn't go for a second debate with Donald Trump, she went on to Fox News instead. First off, what's your reaction to that interview? Do you think it was a big mistake?
Well, it depends on which side of the aisle you're standing. The Kamala Harris team thinks it was a brilliant idea to go on Fox and maybe change one or two minds. The Trump team thinks it's a disaster, and that's just a reflection of how close the elections are and how close it's going to be. So it just depends on which side of the aisle you're standing. But generally speaking, if you look at it, it's a good thing that she was able to go into the
Fox's
opposition then, you know, and she was able to answer questions, some satisfactorily, some not so much, but she was able to address a lot of things, which we never know. At November 5, we'll know if that changed anything on the board.
Well, so, you know, from the interview, some say she was not agile in her answers, she was evasive, she did not articulate clear policy that would improve American lives. Some of us said she deflected to Trump at some of the questions. Do you think the questions were tough and that the vice president dodged several of the hard call-outs of the Biden administration's immigration policies?
I'm sure when she planned for this interview, they anticipated a lot of these questions. They were tough questions, and she answered the ones that should be answered. To be honest, there are some questions that you don't bother answering. You know it's a trap. So I guess she was just being smart in how she was handling those questions that were expected to be tough, and they were tough.
But do you think, particularly for the undecided voters, now, since she went to Fox News for this interview, she didn't get the opportunity to have a second debate with Donald Trump. Do you think she will recover from being perceived as dodging tough questions on the Biden administrations particularly? That's talking about the immigration policies of the Biden administration.
I mean, to being a neutral, listening to her response to the border question, she answered and made her point. they had a proposal which former President Trump told his people to move on from. So that's what she has to say, because yes, it took a while before that came up, but they had a plan which supposedly should have solved all the problems. But for political reasons, the Republicans moved away from it. So she doesn't need to say more than that. If it was late, well, we still had something. And so I think on the border issue, she gave the answer that she's always wanted to give, and that's what she would say until election day. Whether that is enough for some people, we'll never know. And I mean, the lucky thing for her is she's also running against someone that doesn't answer a lot of questions. If you listen to the debates, if you listen to former President Trump, he also runs away from certain questions. So
Yeah.
it's even if you look at it from that point of view.
Well, I was going to ask who you were staking your money on, but I'm afraid we don't have so much time to get that. Hopefully, we'll get to bring you back before the elections to help us understand, some of the who would eventually win and what the future portends for Americans. Thank you so much for talking to us on The World Now.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, let's bring you a sad story now. Former One Direction star Liam Payne has died aged 31 in Argentina after falling from the third floor of a hotel in Buenos Aires. In a statement, police said they discovered Payne's body after an emergency crew responded to a call in the upscale neighborhood of Palermo on Wednesday. Emergency Medical Services Director told local media that Payne had suffered serious injuries and that an autopsy would be carried out. Payne had risen to global fame as part of the much-loved boy band created an X Factor TV show in 2010 along with Harry Styles, Niall Horan and Zayn Malik. Earlier this month, Payne had attended the Argentina concert of his former One Direction bandmate Niall Horan. A police investigation has been launched and the star's body has been transferred to a morgue in the city.